Good morning all. Light and dark and the human body. The more you understand about light, the more you understand that it plays an intricate part in our health and well-being. Whether we're talking about mood regulation, whether we're talking about bone health, physical health, mental health, light plays a part in all of that. And the more you realize that, the more you understand how misunderstood light is and how important light can be in order to achieve the kind of health and wellness that you want. And the reason I'm doing this video now is because sometimes it's good to go back to basics. Back to basics about how important light is and what light can do in order to help you. And so if we go back to basics, where is our biggest sensor for light? Our eyes. Our eyes are our biggest sensor for light. So, if you are putting sunglasses on in the morning because it's bright outside, for most people, is that a good or a bad thing? Of course, it's a negative thing, but if you have very light sensitive eyes, then I understand. But getting natural daylight on your face, allowing your eyes to absorb that natural daylight and the intensity of that natural daylight is an important factor in regulating circadian rhythm, but not just regulating circadian rhythm, actually doing a lot more through direct connections in your brain. So the reason I talk about this now is because it's important that you understand what the eye is doing. And so if you think, you've probably heard of cods and rods and cones in your eyes. So cones, the color receptors, red, green and blue. So they are sensitive to red, green and blue. And then you have rods, which are low light conditions. They're the ones that if you are in a bright room and then you turn off all the lights, you can't see anything for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then suddenly these start to activate. And so they're pretty cool. But you probably don't know that there's a third light sensitive cell in your eyes which isn't attached to those in such a way. So for example, someone can be clinically and legally blind, i.e. they cannot see patterns, they cannot see colours or anything else like that. But these particular sensors might still be working and sending signals to another part of your brain to help regulate mood, to help regulate anxiety, and also to help tell the rest of the body when it is in time. Not where it is in time, but when it is in time. And that's very important to understand, because those particular cells judge intensity. They judge light intensity. So that's why it's very important to get the right kind of intensity of light early on in the day, so your body can help judge when it is in time. It's also very important, and a reason why I send out a booklet with my blue light blockers, saying, although you've got these blue light blockers which are brilliant because they block out a chunk of wavelengths of light which are known to inhibit melatonin production, etc. Another thing that is important to do is to lower the intensity of light at night, because if you keep the intensity of light at night up, then that signal is being sent into a different part of your brain to send out a false signal of when it is in time, because you are giving that intensity of light. So that's why it's important that you allow your eyes to get natural daylight, natural morning daylight where possible, and get that intensity of light. So those particular cells are able to sense that and send the signals to the right place, send the signals to the right spaces in your brain. And why is this also fascinating and important? Because these very, very, very old parts of the brain and sensory parts, i.e. there are some people that think that those were the original eyes. So these sensors were the original kind of eyes. They could just sense when it was light and dark. And so these parts, so it goes into the very, very, very old parts of the brain. But from that, it then sends signals out to very new parts of the brain, i.e. ones that control your mood. And this is something that I found very early on. And as far as the more I got outside into slightly higher intensity lights, slightly higher intensity natural daylight, the better I felt. And what they found more recently is that there is a direct connection between those light intensity sensors in your eye that send a signal back into your old part of your brain, which then directly impact or interact with the mood centers of your brain, which I think is pretty fantastic. So not only have we seen elements of specific wavelengths of light input through the cones of the eye have an impact on mood, we are now seeing direct impact and direct contact between light intensity and mood. And so the more you understand about light and quantum biology and that side of things, the more you understand just how interlinked we are with light. Not just the colours of light, but the intensity of light. And when we start to spend more and more time indoors, we get away from that intensity of light. And then we start to see a real connection, a really clear connection between people that spend more time indoors and levels of anxiety, levels of depression. And we now know that there is a clear connection between the two. So, light and humans, we are inextricably linked. So when you are thinking about light, it's not just the colours that you want, it's the intensity that you want. Think about that in the morning, but also think about in the evening. So in the evening, if you want to help your sleep patterns, then you want to go to physically lower level lights, i.e. on the floor or table lamps, nothing overhead. You want to change the hue, i.e. change the colour of the lamps away from that white, blue daylight into more reds and oranges, reds if you can do it. But also change the intensity. Change the intensity to your lowest possible level. Now with some people with very light sensitive eyes, that might be candlelight. That might be 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 tea lights. It might be a few other candle lights. I tend to be on red, a dark red at like 660, 670 nanometers. And it's relatively dark. It's not dark. I can go to candle lights if I want to. But I find that the red and where the red light is, very low down, that has minimal impact on any kind of wakefulness parameter, and I sleep well and I wake up feeling energized and rested. So those are the two things you want to look at. You want to look at light intensity and color of light. So light intensity in the morning is important because it tells your body when you are in time, and then light intensity in the evening as well as color of light in the evening can help or hinder your sleep pattern. Have a great day, stay healthy, and always get enough